The two previous Champions League winners going head-to-head in a sticky situation. Let's be honest, it's an unwanted fixture for both sides. Real Madrid and Manchester City facing off in the knockout phases now. The unwanted knockout phases, the extra fixture. We don't want this. Neither side wants this. Neither side wants to be playing each other right now. But here we are, getting what we deserve for failing to get into those automatic spots. But Real Madrid, they have got some awkward situations, huge risks for Real Madrid in the terms of the number of yellow cards they're facing right now and the injuries that they face as well. We'll get into that shortly because it's unbelievable. What are they going to do? What is the rotation that is necessary in that Real Madrid starting 11? It's going to be unbelievable to see what Carlo Ancelotti actually does to and fields the side that's going to face Manchester City. What is he going to do? It's crazy. There's a chink in their armour. Manchester City, there's an opening in the door. There's a crack in the window. There's something we can do here, but City have got their own problems, as we've seen this season with the form, the underwhelming season Manchester City are going through right now. It's hard to see Manchester City doing enough to get through both legs, but you just never know. You just never know this season. The Champions League always pops up with some magical surprises, as we saw with the FA Cup as well. Liverpool, ha. Anyway, moving on. We're not talking about the FA Cup because that's for another day. Huge risks for Real Madrid, but in terms of the form that Real Madrid are going through right now, you look at the Champions League form in particular. I'd say they turned a bit of a corner, Real Madrid, as they always do in the Champions League. The three most recent fixtures they won, they very nearly got through into those automatic spots, whereas Manchester City only winning 3 out of their games in the league phase. Now they scraped through by the skin of their teeth, getting into the playoff stages, at least into that top 24 spots. Just we managed to do it by a Club Brugge comeback after going 1-0 down in that game as well. But in terms of the domestic form for both sides, I think Real Madrid is quite literally the definition of mixed. You look at their most recent 3 fixtures, they've won 1, they've drawn 1, and they've lost 1 as well. So I feel like there's a bit of a mixed form for Real Madrid. They do find themselves top of La Liga, but it's very, very close, those top 3 spots being separated by 2 points with Atletico Madrid, who they faced at the weekend and drew 1-1 with a dubious penalty, in all honesty, for Atletico Madrid, but drew 1-1 nonetheless and find themselves just 1 point ahead of Atletico Madrid and 2 points behind Barcelona as well. So La Liga's heating up. It's heating up. Halfway stage is getting tasty. Whereas Manchester City, on the other hand, there's no way we're winning the Premier League this season. We've had a catastrophic season in terms of our domestic form. There's still a very good chance we can now win an FA Cup with certain sides, Arsenal and Liverpool, not being in the FA Cup, but Manchester City still have a Champions League campaign that we can have to take seriously. Of course we do. But I'm starting to think realistically the FA Cup seems to be our best bet. But in terms of City's form, there's an underwhelming feeling around the confidence and the aura around Manchester City right now. But the facts are, Manchester City have won 8 out of their last 10 matches. Those are the facts. That's not bad form by any stretch of the imagination. 8 out of your previous 10 isn't bad going. It's just those 2 losses. The PSG loss was awful. It was an ugly goals that we were conceding in the second half against PSG. Then, of course, the Arsenal defeat, 5-1. Pretty humiliating, in all honesty, to lose to that bunch by 5-1. But here we are. But outside of that, 8 out of 10. It's not too bad. So it depends on what narrative you want to spin. And for me, I think there's definite positives to take out the recent fixtures, but there's still even against Leyton Orient when we beat them, there was still it wasn't convincing. It was hardly convincing. I'm not going into these fixtures against Real Madrid with confidence, but I'm gaining confidence from Real Madrid's situation, because take a look at this. Yellow cards. Real Madrid are facing, 7 of their players are at risk of suspension for the second leg. So a lot of those players are going to be treading on eggshells through that game, cautiously playing the game out of fear of picking up a yellow card and getting a suspension and being missing for the game at the Bernabeu. And I mean, if some of these players, if they're missing for the Bernabeu fixture, I mean, it's opening the door for Manchester City to actually knock Real Madrid out at this phase, which is exciting and something we should definitely be playing on and winding up some of these Real Madrid players, trying to get them in the book as quick as possible. But the 7 players you can see here are Bellingham. I mean, yeah, huge. Modric, Camavinga, Tchouaméni, Militao, Rudiger and Endrick. Don't forget Rudiger and Militao are injured though, so those 2 won't be playing and they won't be at risk. Militao won't even be there for the second fixture anyway. There's suggestions Rudiger could be fit potentially for the second leg. at the Bernabeu, but doubts around his injury record as well. So they won't be picking up a yellow card in this fixture because Rudiger and Militao are out anyway, which again, it adds to the risks for Real Madrid and what their back four is going to look like. So the full injury list with a new name being added to this list, which makes it incredibly interesting what they're going to do with their back four. So the full injury list for Real Madrid is as follows. Carvajal, who's been out for a pretty much majority of the season. Militao, Rudiger, Alaba, and Vázquez, who came off with 10 minutes to go, the final 10 minutes against Atletico Madrid. So he's been playing right back this season, which would normally you'd see Carvajal there, wouldn't you? But lately, we've seen Vázquez playing in there and doing all right. But we did see against Leganés, Valverde playing at right back to give Vázquez a little bit of a break, but he's now picked up an injury as well. So if you're now taking Valverde out of the Real Madrid midfield to play him at right back, then Real Madrid's midfield just ain't what it could be. That it's losing the technicality, it's losing the solidity that Real Madrid tend to have with Valverde in midfield. I'd much rather see him at right back. You know, it's out of his position. They're out of their comfort zone, so their back four is going to be incredibly interesting. Also, Camavinga's only just back from injury as well. He came on for the final 10 minutes against Atletico Madrid, and he's spent this season, he's missed 23 games this season, Camavinga. I think that's a vital area of the pitch as well, where if Camavinga's going to be playing for Real Madrid in this game, that's someone I would want to see if I'm Real Madrid because of his physical presence. You know, our midfield just has no physical presence in it right now. You know, we are getting ran through like a hot knife through butter at times. It's too easy to walk through the Manchester City midfield. It's like walking through a puddle. You know, there's nothing there. There's no strength to it whatsoever. You put Camavinga and Valverde and Bellingham in that midfield, it scares the life out of me. But will they risk Camavinga? Because he's not only is he just back from injury, he's also on a yellow card. So he one yellow card away from suspension. So what are they going to do in that midfield? I think they'll play him. I think even though he's just back from injury, and it was a case of getting him some minutes in that Atletico Madrid game where he came on for the final 10 minutes, I think they're going to have to play him in this game. In terms of City, in terms of the players that we could potentially lose due to a yellow card, we've only got the one, and that is Ruben Diaz. Now, the season we've been having, I can almost guarantee you, the script is written in the stars. 0 yellow cards for Real Madrid, 1 yellow card for Manchester City, and it's Ruben Diaz and he's out for the second leg. You can just see it. You can just see it happening, can't you? You know that's going to happen. You know it's 7 of their players could be getting, 5 if you include the injuries, could be picking up a yellow card, you know. I mean, you know Ruben Diaz is going to be the one. You know it's going to be him. You just, come on, please. We need him for that second leg. We absolutely do. In terms of Manchester City injuries, Rodri, he's a definite miss for this game and will be for the majority of the season. The rest are doubts in Doku, Ake, Ederson, Bob, and Nico Gonzalez as well. I've considered him a doubt because we haven't heard from Pep Guardiola yet as of now while I'm making this video. We haven't heard the pre-match press conference from Pep Guardiola to tell us whether Gonzalez is going to be available for this game or not. So I'm not aware of that. But the way he was carrying himself off that pitch, or the physios rather, carrying him off the pitch, I have my doubts that he's going to be okay for this game. You never know, though. It could just be a quick impact. 48 hours later, the swelling's gone down. He might be all right. You never know. We're going to wait for it to hear from Pep, though, because I think that's a huge area for Manchester City as well and what we're going to do. Let's have a quick look at the predicted starting 11s. I'm going to go with Real Madrid first here, with Courtois in net. And this is where it gets interesting now. From this point on, what are they going to do? I think they're going to play Valverde again with Vázquez being out. That's huge for them. Unless they're going to do something a little bit unorthodox and try something different just to get Valverde in that midfield. But you've got a potential of Phil Foden, Marmoush and Gvardiol, who loves coming down that side as well to look after. So they're going to want to have someone who's got a bit of nous about them playing in there. They're not going to throw some kid in there to look after the threats that Manchester City have going down the left side. It's going to be amazing to see what they do. So I do think they'll go with Valverde at right back, considering Vázquez picked up that injury. In the middle as well, Tchouaméni has been the one who's stepped in for Real Madrid in that central defensive role. Again, someone they'd probably rather have in midfield for his physical presence. In particular, you put him alongside Chalobos or even Camavinga. There's even more physicality there. But they're going to have to drop him into centre-back again. And they've also been playing Asensio as well. They could play Ramon, who's been playing. He's an inexperienced player that doesn't get as many minutes as the rest of his squad. But I think they could play Ramon in there just to get Tchouaméni in there if they choose not to play Camavinga. So they do have options, but they're not exactly experienced options for Real Madrid. So at left back for Real Madrid, I think we're going to see Fran Garcia again. So we could see Mendy. potentially, who's got that little bit more athleticism about him compared to Fran Garcia, but he's been getting in the starting 11 more often than not in recent weeks. I do think it's going to be Camavinga. I think they're going to risk him. I think it's worth it from Real Madrid's point of view, considering that there's going to be no Valverde in there as well. And Dani Chalabos, if I can find him. Where is he? And there he is, in there alongside Camavinga. You could see Ramon coming on. You could see something like that with Tchouaméni. And I mean, it's risky to play Ramon and Asensio together, looking after Erling Haaland. I mean, Haaland's going to be rubbing his hands together if they do that. But that midfield suddenly looks a lot more physical and difficult to get past. So those two in front of those back two centre backs, they're going to offer him protection at least. So it's not easy decision for Carlo Ancelotti and what he's going to do. I do think he's going to play it safer than that, though, and put Tchouaméni behind him. And this is where the team starts to look worrying from a Manchester City point of view. From this point on, at this point now, you're looking at that team saying, hang on a minute, hang on a gosh darn picking minute, we can beat this Real Madrid side. Yeah, well, hang on a minute. This is where it starts to get a bit shit. Oh, yeah, you pop in and you're like, oh, yeah, forgot about him. Oh, yeah, oh, shit, yeah, oh, shit, yeah, oh, shit, yeah, oh, shit, yeah, oh, yeah, shit, yeah. All of a sudden, that front four there, you're like, oh, yeah. What are we going to do? Well, I mean, that's a nightmare for any football side. Even Manchester City at their peak would be worried with that front four coming up against M4, against any Manchester City side at their best. It's worrying, and that's where the game is going to be won and lost. But the back six there with the two in midfield, I think we can get at them. I do think there's a chance for Manchester City. In all honesty, I think we have to go to the Bernabeu with arguably a 3-goal advantage to give ourselves a realistic chance of knocking Real Madrid out, because if we go at 2-0 up, they'll turn that round in the blink of an eye. The amount of times City have conceded 3, even 4 goals in the space of 45 minutes, so I think we need a big goal advantage. And I think it's a case of just throw everything at them, especially considering how weak they are at the back. Just throw everything at them and hope Thibaut Courtois doesn't have one of his worldy days, which he tends to do. Even in that 4-1 demolishing of Real Madrid that we saw in our treble-winning season when we annihilated them, he pulled off about 5 or 6 world-class saves to prevent that from being double figures. Do you know what I mean? It could have been way more than 4-0 in that game. Manchester City, on the other hand, with Ederson being a doubt, I think we're going to see Ortega. And we've got questions over our back four as well. Not as many problems to worry about, but I think he's a definite. And of course, I think Ruben Diaz is a definite. I do think we're going to see Mateus Nunes as well at right back, because the options are Rico Lewis, Mateus Nunes, or player Kanji at right back. But I've left a hole there on purpose. Now, I'm going to go... It's so risky. It's so risky what we do. If we play Kushanoff, it's risky because he's young, he's inexperienced. He showed that he's got... he calmed himself down against Leyton Orient, even against Chelsea after he made the mistake, but I can't forget that mistake against Chelsea. So you're thinking, we'll play Akanji then. Well, what did he do against Arsenal? He made a similar sort of mistake where he gave the ball away in the first couple of minutes and we're 1-0 down. So Akanji's not exactly filling me with confidence right now either. So I'm torn as what to do here. I'm really, really torn. And purely because of the speed, and it's so risky, but I'm going to go with Kushanoff. It's not ideal, but he's got the experience of Ruben Diaz alongside him. You're hoping he can help him out a little bit. And more often than not, we're going to see Nunes coming forward, which is going to leave a big gaping hole for Vinicius Jr. to expose. And you're just hoping Kushanoff has one of those days that you dream of as an up-and-coming superstar player, where you just pocket Vinicius Jr. I'm asking for a lot from him. You know what I mean? He's a young lad. I'm asking for a lot, but he's got the speed about him. You're hoping his speed can stifle the threat of Vinicius Jr., but you've got Josko Gvardiol and Ruben Diaz on the other side to look after Rodrigo, the speed of Mbappe. So, I mean, take your pick, mate. Where's the problems coming from? They're coming left, right and centre, mate. So whatever we do at the back is going to be problems for Manchester City. Where it gets really interesting for City, again, is in midfield. So I think Kovacic is almost certain to play. I mean, if Nico Gonzalez is fit, he's in. For me, if he's fit, he's in straight away. That for me fills me with a bit more confidence in that midfield. I have my doubts that he's okay. I mean, if he is fit, he plays for me. But if he's not, I think what we do in midfield, I think Bernardo Silva, mate, he's had so many games this season, Bernardo Silva, and I'm just thinking now it's time to rest him. It's time to rest him. He's not been playing well lately. I love the guy, don't get me wrong. And you're looking at that midfield with Camavinga and Bellingham in particular, two incredibly big, imposing, long strides, physical presence. And I think we just play John Stones in midfield without any sort of dropping into defence and having a back five, because Pep Guardiola just does not play back five. That doesn't happen at Manchester City. Just play him in midfield, an out-and-out midfielder for that particular role. And I think the physicality of John Stones, it's not like he doesn't know the position. Obviously, you would rather Nico Gonzalez in there because he's got a better understanding of that midfield position compared to John Stones, but he's not foreign to it. You know, we won the treble with him in that position. And he had a harder role of having to drop into centre-back. If you just give him the freedom to just play in midfield and stay in midfield without having to drop back into defence. And he can also offer that protection as alongside Kushinoff should Nunes come forward like that. You've got two of them protecting that area like that as well, which is John Stones' defensive awareness, I think, would be ideal in that situation. So I think John Stones and Kovacic in midfield is what I would do. And then you start to throw the threats. What have Manchester City got as a threat? I think Kevin De Bruyne, considering he came on for the final few minutes, 18 minutes against Leyton Orient, I think we'll see him play this game. You're wanting a big game, a big game, a big blockbuster performance from Kevin De Bruyne is very much needed. Of course, Erling Haaland is going to be up top for Manchester City as well. And it's what we do outside now, because I think Savinho has been playing really, really well. My personal preference would be Savinho, actually, to play... arguably maybe on the right and inverting a little bit when Nunes comes on the overlap a little bit. You could play him on the left and say exactly the same thing and have Gvardiol going around the outside of him. But I could see Savinho playing on the right. He can also maintain width, Savinho as well. But my preference would be Savinho. And then I think it's a flip of a coin between Marmoush and Foden, because I think Pep had indications there that he wasn't going to play Foden in the Leyton Orient game. He didn't play him until the final 18 minutes of the game against Leyton Orient, which makes me think he's going to play him against Real Madrid. I just don't think Foden's been... The form a couple of weeks ago was pretty good from Phil Foden. He was getting a couple of goals a game. But recent form, he's declined again. He was poor against Arsenal, came on against Leyton Orient, albeit for 18 minutes. He didn't do much in that game. I'm concerned about Foden, but I do think he's actually going to play Phil Foden. My preference would be Marmoush. I would play Marmoush because there's a spark about him. He's not scoring his goals yet. He's not got himself onto the score sheet yet in a Manchester City shirt, but this could be the moment to do it for me. My personal preference would be to play Marmoush. I don't think Pep's going to do it, though. He could drop Savinho and play Marmoush in that position and play Phil Foden, and that's what I think Pep could do in this game against Real Madrid. But it's these two areas, the Marmoush area and the Foden area, where I think it's up for debate, whether you're playing Savinho, Marmoush or Phil Foden. Obviously without Doku, who's a doubt for this game, is interesting. But my preference would be Marmoush and Savinho. That would be what my go-to starting 11 for this game, and drop Phil Foden, which is a big statement, because someone who's won the Player of the Season is now not playing against Real Madrid. He's not going to be happy about that. I think Marmoush should have some understanding of not playing in this game, considering he's only just joined Manchester City. But I think there's a goal threat, a bigger goal threat from Marmoush. Considering the goals that he's been getting in the Bundesliga, you don't turn a bad player overnight. For me, I don't think that can just happen. You've changed your environment, and that's obviously going to play a part in Marmoush's thinking. But still, Champions League, he's been scoring goals. Well, in the Europa League for Eintracht Frankfurt at least. So you're hoping he can do it against Real Madrid. Marmoush, will he play? Get in the comments below. Let us know your thoughts. I'm going to go 2-1 City win. I think we'll win just about this game, but I'm not sure it's going to be enough for the whole two legs to actually progress through into the next rounds. We'll have to wait and see, but what a game this promises to be. Make sure you're tuning in for the watch long on Typical City as well, and make sure you're hitting that like button and subscribing. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. What's your predicted starting 11? Let me know in the comments below. Like and subscribe to Typical City, and I'll see you in the next one.
This is Typical City now, holding up silver.